This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Brian Peña. I always join the Vito podcast, the best podcast in the United States.
And welcome to the latest, the freshest edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I am your host, Vito Geronimo Chirco, alongside my usual sidekick and broadcast partner and fun, that is Doc from Doc and John Charles Macaroon. John, how are you doing?
Well, Vito, the Tigers, when you looked at what they did this last week, it was okay. They won the series versus Baltimore. They lost the series on the road versus Atlanta. But I think the thing that has caught people's attention is the Major League Baseball draft. Now, for me, obviously, I'm not as invested in the draft as a lot of people, okay? Many people realize that in baseball, you just can't overwhelmingly overhaul your roster with draftees. It takes a long-ass time. And the Detroit Tigers, they drafted an 18-year-old out of Florida in the prep baseball league down there. And obviously, he's going to be fast-tracked to the minors. I don't think he's going to play college ball. But Riley Greene was the selection, 5th pick overall. You'll tell me all about him. That's what everyone's talking about. But for me, it's just not something that I invest in heavily because here's the thing, Vito. We won't be talking about him until episode 400 of this Tigers Talk.
We're even still here, still alive, or still doing the podcast, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even though people will say, well, you got to wait a couple years. Okay, fine. I tweeted out that a couple of the draftees from 14 and 15 haven't even played that much in the major leagues, Bo Burrows and Derek Hill. So in terms of overhauling a roster, it's just going to take a lot of patience for the Detroit Tigers to really change things that are happening with the big club. But in the end, the strategy that they chose to use in terms of looking at positional players that can hit the baseball, in the first and second round, they achieved that objective. Can we objectively say, are these guys going to hit? No. Anybody that tells you that they think that they know what's going to happen with these guys is not being truthful. It's going to take time to see what it's like when he gets this big check, when he goes through the minor league system, how he adjusts to those that are game planning to get him out. So Riley Greene's got work to do. Now, does he have a certain set of skills that are appealing? Yes. Dude can mash the baseball, and it's very impressive, the film that you do see on him. But there are question marks in terms of what he can do in the outfield. There are defensive question marks from those that have watched him. So he's going to have to develop. Now, people are talking that he wants to stay in center field and wants to play the outfield. So be it. Let's see what he does. We got to be patient. But by and large, what I think the fans of Detroit that were paying attention to the draft, what they wanted, the Tigers did. They executed properly. They went and got some position players. And I do think that's going to be the strategy of Al Avila in this year's draft because the Detroit Tigers are depleted in that specific area.
So here's the thing. Tigers needed a position player badly. Now, Andrew Vaughn is a guy that a lot of people wanted, though. He went to the Chi Sox at number 4. So Vaughn is a guy that we talked about on Tigers Talk here as well in the past, about him being a guy the Tigers probably desired, a guy that could hit for average, hit for power. Now, this guy in Riley Greene, a prep outfielder, is a pick that you have to like, though, to start off. And it's because he can mash the baseball as well, but not a great power hitter as of yet. Now, maybe he more full-fledged grows into his body, becomes a better power hitter moving forward, and becomes a nice corner outfielder that hits for power at the major league level one day. It's just because he only is a high schooler at this point, Doc. He might not be ready for another 200 episodes. As you were saying sarcastically, well, yeah. I mean, he might not be ready for a long time here. So I think they will jumpstart him in the minors and get him started right away and see what he can do once they sign him to a contract. And once they do that, you can expect this guy, if everything goes right, to move up through the farm system very quickly. It's just, he's not a great defensive player either, as you already had noted. Not known for his defense, an average outfielder at best. So him patrolling the outfield and doing a great job at Spacious Comerica Park, yeah, probably isn't going to be the case for this guy, and maybe long-term it is, but in the short term, we do know one thing: he can mash, and the Tigers badly needed hitters.
Badly? Oh my goodness, Vito, when you look at it, in terms of what the Tigers need, hitters, they need, especially when you look at game in, game out, what the Tigers are doing at the big club, the offense. Did you realize, Vito, and I'm curious to get your sense of this, that the month of May had the most home runs hit collectively in Major League Baseball, but in any month of any year? Did you realize that? And the Detroit Tigers, obviously, and their big boppers didn't really contribute a whole heck of a lot to that. Now, since we enacted our new segment, Dinger Watch.
Dinger Watch. Which actually, who hit the most home runs? I forgot about Dinger Watch. But your boy, now who did you pick? Brandon Dixon?
So you debuted a segment?
I know.
And didn't pay attention?
I did. That's true. At least I'm honest here, right? I'm accountable for my actions.
Really, Vito?
I know.
You started a
I'll take the
segment
booze.
and didn't even pay attention to who did it. All right, so
I know.
you'll have to throw out a tweet on Wednesday for those of us that did pay attention. A lot of
Which is
Tigers
you?
home runs. A lot of Tigers did hit home runs this week. It was fascinating. But yeah, May was a month in which across Major League Baseball, a lot of home runs left the ballpark at an alarming rate, man. It's crazy. I think well over 1,100 home runs were hit in the month of May. But in terms of what the Tigers contributed, not a whole heck of a lot.
Well, here's the thing, really quick. I want to go back on something that I said. I want to correct myself. Andrew Vaughn went number 3 to the White Sox. I thought I was wrong in saying he went number 4. Anyways, the Tigers could use bats like that and Riley Greene, these guys to have fast tracks to the big leagues because, once again, everybody else is hitting home runs like you said, Doc. And the Tigers just aren't. Miguel Cabrera, 2 home runs still. Other big so-called premium hitters have not produced enough to warrant this high level of attention from other major league clubs and from fans that are Tigers fans and that are fans of baseball nationwide and worldwide. And that includes a guy that I've harped upon and criticized in the past, and that is Nick Castellanos. I mean, he did heat up there for a little bit, but we're still not seeing, I think, consistent enough production out of this guy, who I just saw recently. I forget what game it was, Doc, but my dad and I were watching, and we both said that he reached at this pitch and got himself out. And I've seen that so many times out of him early on in the season, Doc, to warrant criticizing him for that. And if the Tigers want to get a nice package of prospects in return for him, he's going to have to start hitting better and showcasing more plate discipline. Because I know there was that stat about him. And it was a couple of weeks ago we talked about it, Doc, and you brought it up yourself, that Nick C is swinging at pitches consistently outside of the strike zone. And when that is the case, that is not a good go-to major league hitter then. And what the Tigers are relying upon him right now is to be that guy that is a go-to slugger that will not swing consistently at the pitches outside of the strike zone, yet you still see him, and maybe not game in, game out as much as he was at the beginning of the season, Doc. But still, last week I saw him in a game or two, in one game specifically, where it didn't look good for him. He got himself out against the Braves, and that was a good series, relatively speaking, for the Tigers, as you and I both know. But still, if the Tigers want to showcase any kind of, competitiveness on a consistent game-to-game basis, these guys, such as Nick C., have to showcase more plate discipline.
Now, you start right away, like always, with the negative. I do
know,
want to
I'm always
highlight a
about
couple
it.
guys. Niko Goodrum, how good must it have felt for him to go down to Atlanta in front of 50 family members and have a multi-home run game, multiple hits? Really
5 hits, career-high 5 hits in that game on Friday night last week, yep.
Exactly, and he did some things. In the second home run, he golfed it, and he destroyed the baseball. And it was cool. Niko Goodrum, good for him. And the player I want to talk about that has done some work and has turned things around a little bit, had a great month of May. Obviously, JaCoby Jones and the start of the season that he had was horrific. Subpar start to the year for him. Quite disappointing. But he worked on things. Obviously, he's made adjustments. And, Vito, the work that he's done has resulted in some significant output. He raised his batting average from sub 200 to about 230 because he had a great month, hitting around 320, I believe, in the month of May. He contributed. And I do think that even though when you look at it in totality, the numbers still don't look that good, being around a 230 hitter. But how much credit do you give JaCoby Jones? And do you think this is something that maybe can be sustained just enough so that you can trade him? Because here's the thing, Vito. Everybody knows it. It's coming. Shane Green, Matthew Boyd, maybe JaCoby Jones, maybe even Niko Goodrum, maybe even the likes of a young cat and Spencer Turnbull can be turned around and picked up pieces. Because I think by and large, the attitude now is going to be that when the Tigers turn it around, if they do, in fact, there's probably going to be nobody left on this current roster that you even probably will roll with going forward. Maybe Jeimer Candelario when he turns it around and things like that, but not too many players do you say, okay, these are cornerstone guys, even a guy like Spencer Turnbull. But JaCoby Jones, do you think he'll do enough potentially to stay hot, stay relevant, just to bide enough time for the trade deadline, July 31st, so that Avila can move him for some pieces?
JaCoby Jones now, you're saying? God, I don't think so. I don't think he's a relevant enough hitter and has showcased enough, because I'll say this much. I said it about him last week to my dad and brother. Dom Chirco hasn't been on these airwaves. Where the hell has he been all this season? But anyways, I digress, as I want to say about JaCoby, that he hasn't consistently put together more than a week or two of good baseball at a time at the plate. I mean, he's done this before, Doc, a good 2 weeks, but he doesn't do anything past that. He has to extend himself, have more consistency over the course of a month. Really, for me, a month and a half to 2 months, for me to start to believe in him being a guy that is turning it around at the plate. Right now, I don't believe in it, and I don't think other major league teams believe in it.
Okay, so you
Sorry to Nate say all that, but as I always do here on Tigers Talk, right?
Well, I give him credit for the month that he had. It was a decent month. I mean,
Decent, but it was really about what? Week and a half, 2 weeks still?
mm-hmm. In
I
terms
want to
of
see more than that, you know?
how much credit do you give the Tigers for competing with the Orioles and at least winning a game in Atlanta?
Well, the O's are despicable.
Yeah,
Braves are good, though, in Atlanta. No, that's a good series for the Tigers, what they did in that series. So, no, I liked what they showed, the energy, the competitiveness in that series. But overall-wise, like I said, moving forward, for the Tigers to be ultra-competitive against the better teams, too, like the Braves, well, you got to have more plate discipline, okay? And then there is going to come a point in the season where, we've already seen some irrelevancy right from the Tigers and a lack of competitiveness on a consistent basis. Well, when you trade those guys that you already noted, Doc, such as Matthew Boyd, Shane Greene, where is the competitiveness going to be at that point once you trade those guys away? And Joe Jimenez does not look like he's a closer of the future at this point. He has not been that sharp this season. So you want to see him get it right. If he does, maybe he is a closer and the Tigers are all right at the back end of that bullpen once, or if and when Shane Greene is traded, which I think is more likely than not at this point, too, and because he has pitched well overall-wise throughout the course of this season thus far. So I think he will be dealt, as you noted. I think Matthew Boyd has a chance of being dealt. Unless you think because of the Tigers' state of being depleted by injury thus far as a pitching staff as a whole, that they will keep him because of all those injuries. So maybe they do keep Matthew Boyd because of that. But I think Shane Greene already has 1 foot out the door, and not based on the effort level showcased by him this season or his production. But I'm saying that in terms of the Tigers and how they view him as a trade chip, they're going to deal him because he's a bullpen arm. A lot of those bullpen arms are disposable. They're going to deal him and just rely upon Joe Jimenez being that closer the rest of the way this season once they do decide to deal him. Matthew Boyd, once again, there's more of a chance where he doesn't get dealt still. And that's because of the fact, once again, the depleted state of the Tigers pitching staff as a whole. That might keep him here in Motown for the rest of this campaign. Now, in the offseason, though, if they get a really, really good deal, I could see him being dealt then more than maybe right now and leading up to that July 31 non-waiver trade deadline.
Yeah, and here's what I'm hearing, too. Other teams have better players to unload, and so it's going to be tough for the Detroit Tigers to get value back. People are going to make phone calls to Al Avila in regards to the talent, but the thing that is precluding them from making a move is what is being offered. And that's the toughest part, is that I don't want the Tigers to settle. That's the toughest part about making trades, is that what you get back in return has to be impactful. And when there's other teams that have a little bit better of a minor league system, can offer a little bit more for the talent that's going to be traded for, then you're going to have a problem, because I think that a lot of the general managers are realizing where the Tigers are at, and they're kind of backed in a corner in that they don't have enough leverage, I think, to get enough value to trade Matthew Boyd. But I think the efforts are going to be made, and Al Avila's got to be creative. He's got to find the right pieces, because a lot of the moves that have been made, did you realize, Vito? Now, obviously, in terms of Rodgers and Daz Cameron, there are guys from the Justin Verlander trade that do have value and are going to be called upon. But as of yet, as of this recording, no games have been played in the major leagues from the trade that happened with Justin Verlander. None. 0 games.
So far,
Daz Cameron and Rodgers are going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
I do think they're going to be competitive. But, by and large, when you do get a chance to peek at the minors, and I do a little bit, obviously not day to day, and I'm not hardcore about it by and large. There's a lot of people that really pay attention to it, but just not for me. I just want to focus on the big club and what's happening day in, day out. But when you look at what's happening in the minors, there's a couple guys that are doing some things, but by and large, it's kind of dormant right now. It's not exactly, as we say, stock is not way up in terms of what's going on in the minors. There's guys that can be called up, but there's nobody right now that you say, absolutely, besides maybe Willie Castro, that you probably say, get him up here right now. He can help right now. Everyone else is kind of up and down, inconsistent, and that's not what you look for when you're kind of evaluating the minors.
Well, yeah, nobody that you're clamoring for right now to come up because they're not mashing the baseball. Now, Jake Rogers has had a productive season at Triple-A Toledo. Daz Cameron, not so much. And he's going through some stuff, working out some things at that level right now, which is good for him as a young ball player long term. And by the way, once again, to reiterate a point I've made many times on this Tigers Talk podcast, the Tigers' future is the most important thing. So the long-term game has to be in mind for the Tigers, not the short-term future / short-term game and what will happen in the short term, I mean. It's about the long term and what Daz Cameron becomes in the long term. So you keep him down on the farm right now and working on some things at the plate in Triple-A Toledo because you can. Don't rush him to the big leagues and start his service time right now when you're irrelevant as a ball club and he's not ready to reach the big leagues. So you keep him down there, let him keep working on some things. And then maybe he is a good outfielder that is a cornerstone starting center fielder one day with the glove, but also with the bat. Jake Rogers, the same thing at catcher. So I still have some stock in them on a long-term basis. And, you know, we were talking about the Dingers forecast and who won that battle actually between you and I for last week, the debut edition of that segment, Doc. Actually, we all tied. You and I both. Because I had two guys actually I picked. I really was lame and picked two guys, okay? They tied with one home run apiece. That was Nick C. and Kristen Stewart. Kristen Stewart, by the way, went deep on Sunday against the Braves. Nick C. on Friday against the Braves. You picked Brandon Dixon. He also went deep once. So nobody even won. There goes that segment already, right? But anyways, at least there was some power showcased, and against the Braves, got to take that into account, and that's a positive here, Doc.
Yeah, give us credit. We put it out there.
Right? At least they all hit a home run at least, right?
Dingers.
Right?
So once Vito and Doc put it out there, hey, hit some dingers. They did. Now, by and large, are they going to mash the baseball further? I think a lot of weeks when we do the dingers alert, probably a lot of the guys are going to hit one.
Or zero. So then we got one. We got one out of each of our guys.
So it's not too bad. But by and large, you know, the play on the field, obviously disappointing at times in terms of the defense, and people are a little bit upset and frustrated with some of the things that they see. But look, by and large, you won a series, you lost a series. This week, I think, is important for the Detroit Tigers. And Vito and I will talk about this upcoming week for the Detroit Tigers right after we give love to some of our sponsors.
So, Doc, our two sponsors on this fine episode of Tigers Talk are DC Sports and the Detroit Sports Commission. DC Sports are located at Lakeside Mall in Sterling Heights. You can find them on Twitter at DC Sports Detroit and online at DetroitCitySports.com. Two great signings coming up at DC Sports as well. Michigan icon Chase Winovich, just drafted in the third round of this year's NFL Draft by the New England Patriots. He is coming to DC Sports June 15th for an autograph signing. Be there for that one. Then June 30th is Sweet Lou, the soon-to-be maybe Hall of Famer, and I hope to be saying that as a fact at one point too regarding Lou Whitaker, because he deserves to be enshrined in Cooperstown. And he has a signing coming up at DC Sports at the end of June, specifically on June 30th. To find out more about DC Sports' upcoming signings and all of their great authentic memorabilia, please go online once again to their fine website at DetroitCitySports.com. Now, regarding the Detroit Sports Commission, well, you can follow the Detroit Sports Commission on Twitter and on Instagram at DET Sports. And also make sure to check out their terrific website at DetroitSports.org.
So Vito as well, we want to give love to Nick Quintana, third baseman, also drafted in the second round. Now, in terms of the overall Major League Baseball experience, okay, the first draft pick took place around 8 o'clock, then the next one didn't hit until around, I think, 11:30.
I wasn't even up. I didn't even see that pick, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was too long, man. And I said to myself, man, the difference between the NFL draft and the Major League Baseball one, a little bit different in terms of the pomp and circumstance. Greene didn't even show up. A top 5 draft pick potentially doesn't even show up. And I give him credit. Obviously, if I had a chance to be drafted, I would obviously want to stay and hang out with my family as well. But by and large, it just didn't seem like the Major League Baseball draft was treated with the same pomp and circumstance that other sports give it. So I think the Major League Baseball could do a better job of it. Vito, do you know that there's like 40 damn rounds of the draft?
I know.
There used to be
there
used to be 100 rounds. I'm like, okay, you know, it's something for baseball fans to peek into, but by and large, it's a crapshoot. And for those of us that watch baseball, it's interesting. But a little love to Nick Quintana. Hopefully, obviously he's a little bit older. Hopefully he can get into the minor leagues and do some things.
And then there are compensatory picks as well. When a guy is signed, that team that loses the guy gets a pick because of that. So there is that in place as well to even lengthen the MLB draft as a whole further. Two quick things. Nick Castellanos is down to 262. Okay, on a positive note, though, Matthew Boyd looked good again on Sunday. Only 5 innings, but 9 Ks. ERA, 3.01. FIP, that is fielding independent pitching, below 3. He has been excellent thus far this season for the Tigers and has 3 WAR already for himself, according to BaseballReference.com. He has done it all, has been magnificent. So he is a trade candidate. Once again, though, my viewpoint regarding him, though, Doc, Tigers might wait to deal him. Maybe wait for him to have a whole great season, and then you deal him in the offseason. And also, and mainly because of the fact that they have that depleted pitching staff right now due to injury.
Man, the injuries, huh? And now another one with Miguel Cabrera.
I know. How serious is this,
When you start hearing we're going to need as many opinions as humanly possible, I'm a little concerned, Vito. It's just, it's not that, obviously, the power issues and things like that. It's the fact that now, for the better part of 2.5 seasons, there's been this plethora of injuries, and it's just so frustrating because of the fact that he's in and out of the lineup, and I do think that a guy like that potentially that has his size is starting to break down, and it's just really frustrating. It's the best way to put it. I'm obviously hoping for the best in regards to Miguel Cabrera, but I think you and I are probably fearing the worst, huh?
Well, getting a second opinion on his right knee, and he's already in an advanced state in his big league career, right? Towards the end, it looks like. So we can openly say, I've said it before, the demise of Miguel Cabrera is on the rise, okay? Not trying to rhyme here, but really it is. I mean, his average now is down from, it was 300 at one point, it's down to 284. His WAR was at least a solid 0. It's in the negatives now. It's 0.1, negative 0.1, that is, according to BaseballReference.com. So the guy hasn't been able to stay healthy for the last 2 seasons at least. This year, same thing, the right knee issue flaring up. And how serious is it? Well, it's a huge red flag, Doc, when he is of the age that he is, once again 36, and you have to get a second opinion for that issue. Not a good sign for Miguel Cabrera in his health this season.
Yeesh. So this week it's the Rays, huh?
Tampa Bay Rays for 3. What do you think about that matchup? Then we have the Twinkies for my birthday weekend, baby. Okay, I need some gifts. Please shower me with the love and the gifts. Birthday is officially Sunday, June 9th. So I'll be there Friday night to start off my birthday weekend to see the Twinkies shellac the Tigers, perhaps. Did you know the Twinkies, man? I brought it up last week, but I'll reiterate it because everybody should know about the Twins' success thus far this season. They are way up on the Indians, who have hovered around 500 all season long, and I picked the Tribe, unfortunately, to win the AL Central. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. Now, that second wild card in the American League is still up for grabs. The White Sox are right there for it. The Indians are right there for it. So you can be hovering around 500 and claim that second wild card spot, at least right now. But you still have to compete with the A's and the Red Sox for that second wild card spot as well. But a lot of these teams are hovering around 500, and I keep using that phrase, but it truly is that in the American League when it comes to those teams fighting for that second wild card spot. The Twins are way above that. They are, running away with the American League Central Division right now. And if the Indians don't turn it around, Doc, this is going to be an easy division win for the Twins by the end of this season.
As we're recording this podcast, Detroit Tigers 22 wins, 34 losses. In their last 10 games, they're 4-6, so stabled out a little bit.
Good for them, I guess, right? I mean, hey, but not many bright spots. I mean, you see 4-6, at least it's not 2-8, it's not 1-9, it's not 0-10, right, in their last 10.
Well, the Rays come in at 35-22, second place in the AL East. So it's not going to be no easy feat here to get these W's. And in Major League Baseball, there is no really easy game. You have to go out there and you have to handle your business because if you play poorly, if you don't play well fundamentally, you're going to lose the contest. So how are you feeling about the Tigers matchup this week? Obviously, a day off will help. They played well in Baltimore. Obviously, Atlanta was a better team and they performed better. But how are you feeling about the Tigers Rays series?
Not good.
Not good, huh?
Losses? Not optimistic. Well, they're going to lose 2 out of 3 at least, even at home.
Can you believe this? Well, look, I'll say this. We covered, you and I, a homestand with no wins.
Because we were there.
That's maybe what it
Tigers
is.
do not credential us because you stink when we're there, okay?
It's unheard of to cover an entire homestand and then a game gets washed away where you were, competitive at least, right? So they had a
Could
chance.
have maybe won that game.
And so, you're playing a game versus the Athletics and you're competitive, you still were losing, and now you're going to have to go out there to Oakland in September and play a game that was originally in Detroit back in Oakland. So it's unheard of to cover, and really it's tough too because there weren't a plethora of hits this last home series. What do you make? I do want to get your sense of this. I kind of like it because of the fact that, look, people are paying attention that the attendance has been way down, on pace for really, really bad. I think they're on pace for maybe 1.3 million fans overall for the whole year. So what the Tigers decided to do was they had a flash sale last weekend and gave away tickets in the neighborhood of like $9, no fees, even better seats in the neighborhood of $14. I like the idea. They sold around 10,000, 11,000 tickets. I think it's a good idea when the team is not playing well, some injuries and things like that, lower the prices. But still people, when I saw the reviews and stuff, yeah, people bought tickets, but by and large, they're still saying, look, lower the prices of beer, lower the prices of the pizza, and that'll get them out to the ballpark. Do you think they need to do a little bit more of that in terms of maybe even lowering it? Like some people were suggesting a $5 overall night where everything in the ballpark is $5, parking, hot dogs, popcorn, peanuts, beer. Do they need to take a lot more drastic measures to get fans in? Or do you say to yourself, look, it's going to be a hard sell anyway, so if you make it for $10 or what they did do, if you get extra 10,000 tickets at $10, it's 100 G's. They made it in a weekend. It's not bad, but it's still not, doesn't seem like impressive because basically there's 15 games in this month, so if you get 10,000 new fans, it's roughly, a little bit less than 1,000 fans a game more. But on average, there's not that many games where 20,000 people are going. A lot of the games are in the 12 to 15,000 range in terms of attendance this year. So they're trying, but I just think it's a super hard sell this year, especially with what's going on. Are the prices still too high, even when it's $9? I think that's a reasonable price.
John, it was about damn time. Okay, and I'm glad my favorite pro sports team in Detroit, favorite pro sports team overall-wise, throughout the nation, throughout the world, is doing things right and was first to enact this in the city of Detroit. And please, those teams that reside at Little Caesars Arena, take a page out of the Tigers playbook.
Lower the prices.
And replicate what the Tigers are doing and lower those damn prices because nobody is showing up for your stinky product. Even though the Wings have a nice young core, they do have a nice young core, and they have more of a following built in that has been prolonged because of their Stanley Cups that they've won. So they've done more. They have more of a following, hardcore following that is in the Pistons, already built in even when they're losing. But still, take a page out of the playbook, guys, of the Tigers. They're doing things the right way. Now, could they do it even a little bit better? Sure, when it comes to the concession prices. You're right, Doc. Lower the price of water, of hot dogs, of pizza, of beer. And you even get more people than showing up to these games in the month of June. And guess what? Lower the prices throughout the rest of the season. Shatter the prices. Make them all below $10 for tickets everywhere throughout the ballpark the rest of this campaign. Then maybe you do start getting more fans at the ballpark consistently. Does it guarantee it? No. But does it make it more likely that you get 15 or 20,000 fans in your ballpark on a nightly basis when your team stinks for the duration of it? Yes. And that is what is most important. Being proactive and trying at least to get some fans in those stands at Comerica Park. And you know what? I'll say this. It is something that these other teams should be doing, start doing. That is, once again, those teams that reside at Little Caesars Arena. So at the end of the day, at least the Tigers are doing something to be proactive when it comes to trying to get fans in the ballpark. Is it a tough sell? Sure. When your product is below par, always is going to be a tough sell. But at least, once again, the Tigers are taking the initiative and trying to do something to get fans in those seats at Comerica Park the rest of the way this season.
And there's some good giveaways, too, highlighted by, I think, a Sparky Anderson bobblehead. Obviously, the Tigers are trying to do the best that they can. But, yeah, when the product on the field is a little bit tough, not that much offense, and now Miguel Cabrera not being there, it's going to be a tough sell. And when you open a series versus a team, the Rays, and the Rays are 18-8 on the road, and you're throwing out there Ryan Carpenter.
For game one against Blake Snell. Blake Snell, by the way, won the American League Cy Young Award. Can I give you a stat real quick here? Compare the two starters for Tuesday night. You're going to be there, right? Blake Snell, Cy Young Award winner, once again from last year. 3.07 ERA. Okay, 1.04 whip. Let's see Ryan Carpenter now. Right, you love Ryan Carpenter, right? Anyways, 7.58 ERA, 1.53 whip. Big difference there between the starters Tuesday night. Only thing I'll say,
I better get there early. If you're going to the game, get there early because there might be a lot of runs.
You're right with that being said. But to be positive, just a little bit here about the Tigers taking on the Rays right now at least. The Rays are on a 3-game losing streak.
Oh.
There is that, okay? That's the only reason right there to be positive about the Tigers taking on the Rays for this 3-game set at Comerica, though.
might be a problem. They might be a little desperate, and they might come in and start mashing against Ryan Carpenter.
Right,
because-
might be upset with how they've been playing and take it out on the Tigers throughout these 3 games.
Oh, man. Anything interesting going on across Major League Baseball? I haven't really been paying attention too much to league-wide issues. Anything going on in terms of injuries or anything going on with some of these ball clubs? I think everything's kind of been status quo, not too much big news. I don't think it's been splattered across Twitter that I've seen.
Well, did you see Max Scherzer, what I tweeted out? I tweeted it out at Detroit Podcast. I thought that was funny, man. That guy giving that breakdown of what Max Scherzer was saying. It was pretty much word for word, it looked like, too.
Mm-hmm.
He did not want to come out of that ball game. Dave Martinez is a skipper in Washington. Scherzer was smooth sailing. But Martinez wanted to take him out. I believe it was in the 8th inning because Joey Votto of the Reds was coming up to bat, and Votto already had hit a home run, something like that in that game. And Scherzer said, hell no, I'm not coming out, man. I'm Max Scherzer. How many Cy Young awards have I won? I mean, he could have just said that to Dave Martinez, who I don't think has a respect to the clubhouse there in Washington right now.
Hey, but Vito, remember when a similar situation happened in Detroit? He came out to the media and said, I had nothing left when he was in the playoffs. And,
Yeah, now he wants to be out there all the time for the duration of each and every single game that he does start.
Yeah, and Justin Verlander is continuing to ball out, and his numbers are amazing, and he's on pace now to have a really, really, really great season. And the races are good. I think competitively, Major League Baseball is doing well. A lot of home runs. What do you make of that? I talked about it earlier on this podcast. Over 1,100 home runs hit in the month of May. Good thing? Bad thing?
It's just the way of the game now. I mean, it's power or nothing. You're striking out or you're hitting the long ball. Hey, the chicks dig the long ball. And we have that that segment now called Dinger's Forecast, so we're all about the Dingers too here. And it's going to be that way, though, the rest of the way this season, Doc. Now, one stat that really sticks out to me about an opposing team in the American League Central Division is Jose Ramirez and his batting average. Look at this, okay? Or listen to this, guys. Hitting .206 only thus far this season. .2 WAR from Jose Ramirez, who is a 2-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger Award winner. Yet he is hitting a lowly .206, and the Indians throughout their lineup so far this season, Doc, from top to bottom, are struggling mightily. Jose Ramirez has to turn it around for them, and when Corey Kluber comes back from the injured list, he has to be much more sharp and effective than he was before the IL, because he had like an ERA north of 4.5 or north of 5, so he was struggling. And he's been a Cy Young Award winner in the past. And he has struggled. Jose Ramirez has struggled. And the Indians collectively have struggled. So the Indians, will they turn it around? Well, it will be predicated upon Jose Ramirez turning it around at the plate and Corey Kluber, when he is back at full health, pitching much more effectively, start in, start out.
The biggest piece of news, obviously, in the world of baseball is in regards to the passing of Bill Buckner. And we'll finish this podcast talking about this. I know people remember now Bill Buckner for kind of being reclaimed by Boston fans after they won the World Series. So for those that don't know, Bill Buckner obviously made a famous play when he was a Red Sox, and obviously, the Mets hit the ball to him, and he was playing first base, and I believe it was Game 6 of the World Series, 86, and he made a significant error that resulted in the Mets winning. And then the Mets, obviously, that game did not determine the World Series. A lot of people sometimes kind of tie that in and say, Bill Buckner's error cost them the World Series. No, there was another game after that the Mets went on to win, and they went on to win the World Series. But had Bill Buckner made the play, then Boston would have taken down the World Series, and that would have been that. So for many, many years, Bill Buckner was viewed as this, fodder and was a joke, and people would equate him with mistakes. And I think in my youth, watching baseball, that replay of the ball going through his legs was shown like maybe a couple billion times. And so it's one of the early memories that's seared in your brain. But now Boston in the early 2000s started to turn things around, and in the last 19 years, they've won a plethora of World Series. And the first one that they won, people were clamoring for Bill Buckner to be a strong part of it. He was people apologized for all the grief that they gave him. And so he was basically forgiven, quote unquote, by fans for the error that he made. And many people still say, it's sports. To give the guy that much grief for it, to really, make him feel that bad about it, what really was one of the early signs that we're taking sports way too seriously. But, Boston fans, that's how they treated him. But they won the World Series. They made him feel part of it. He came back to the community, and by and large, he was loved. But, now in recent years, his health was failing, and it was announced last week that he passed away. So people are remembering Bill Buckner and for the man that he was, for how gracious he was, especially for how he was treated. He had every right, and people talked about it, he had every right to be bitter. He had every right to not come back to the Boston community and say, look, you guys gave me grief. You guys, associated my whole career with this one play. Look, it was a bad play, and it was a freak play, but shit happens. Mistakes happen. And for a whole community to act that way, Bill Buckner didn't have to come back and shower them with praise and things like that, but he was gracious, and that's what people say. And I think it does lend to the discussion that maybe we do take sports a little too seriously when things like that happen, especially in the age of social media. If he had done that in 2018, forget about it. He would have had to shut down his Twitter profile. He might have had to erase all his social media. It's tough nowadays with the ease in which we can access these athletes, but the thing you can remember about Bill Buckner was even in his toughest moment, he handled it with grace, and he forgave the city, and he really didn't deserve what he got. And it's a tale of sometimes saying, look, mistakes happen. There are going to be plays where you look at it and you say, you know what? I picked up a baseball bat and damn near, hit a ball, but afterwards, I'm sore as hell. I'm 40 years old, and I say, damn, I go swimming 200 meters, that's only 8 laps, and my neck hurts. So,
you're not an athlete.
I am an athlete. I'm athletic.
Yeah. I like to tell myself I'm an athlete too.
But
at
Vito,
4'7".
I seem to recall a professional coach tweeted out. Now it could have been for PR. I don't care. He said, "John, you have the best swing of all the media."
Yeah, and maybe he said that to butter you up and make sure that he gets back on these podcast airwaves too, Doc.
I don't care. It's
I think it
public
might have been
record.
that little bit.
It's going to be framed, that comment, but I am athletic. I do play sports, and I realize
play tennis.
That's why I'm not as mad at Miguel Cabrera. He got a big fat contract. I can understand, man. I wake up sometimes, I'm like, how the hell do my neck hurt? I swam 8 laps. 8 laps! In like 30 minutes. That's how slow I was. I was so winded.
Well, we know you're slow. Come on.
But I woke up the next day, my neck was hurting. And it still hurts. Like here, it's pinched. Maybe because I got bad posture and I was bobbing my head trying to do the butterfly. But you know what? Sports are hard. So, it's hard to hit a baseball. And when you sit up close to see how fast and how quick you got to respond, I don't know how anybody can hit it 3 times out of 10 successfully in a career. For those that do, God bless you, man. It's a tough sport. So, in relating to Bill Buckner, rest in peace. Obviously, condolences to the family. Baseball lost a great ambassador, and it was tough to hear the news.
By the way, Bill Buckner, career batting average of .289. He was no slouch and got a lot of criticism for that error. Okay, the ball went right underneath his legs. You can't allow that to happen. But guess what? In the grand scheme of things, there are other reasons for why the Red Sox lost that World Series in 1986.
Game 7?
They went to a Game 7. We're up 3-0 in that Game 7 at one point, by the way, too. So the Red Sox could have won the game, even with that error happening by Bill Buckner in Game 6. Anyways, the Red Sox ended up winning it all in 2004. Won it multiple times since then. So they forgave Bill Buckner. He came back to Fenway. They gave him a standing ovation, and the guy was forgiven, and rightfully so. Also, I love the fact that he was self-deprecating. Did you know that he actually went on Curb Your Enthusiasm and was on there and it was Mookie Wilson, right, who hit that ball that went underneath his mitt in Game 6. He let the ball go. Yeah. Did you see that? Let the ball go out the window in that one episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. So I loved it that he went on there, was there with Larry David of Curb, and just he made it known that he could deal with it, okay, that there was stuff more important to him as well in life than just baseball and his playing past in that specific era. The only sad thing about him reflecting on his life, and his legacy as a big leaguer, Doc, is that when these outlets came up with his obituary, like 4 of the major ones of these newspapers, ESPN.com even, included his heir like in the first or second graph of the obituary.
Let it go.
Let it go. The guy passed away. It was a long time ago. The Red Sox have won since. Let the guy go. And he had a nice major league career, was a consistently good hitter, hitting for average, that is, most specifically. So you look at his career, and I just brought up some numbers here from his baseball reference page, and you'll see from 1971 to 1987, Bill Buckner averaged .293 for his batting average. He was a guy that was a pure hitter that many people, even pundits, now have come out and said, Doc, after he passed away, that he was one of the best pure hitters of his generation, of his time as a major leaguer. And that is forgotten a lot, and wrongly so, because of one mistake he made in a World Series, and because of that, because it was on that grand stage, will never be forgotten, despite the fact, once again, that outside of that era, Doc, he had a great big league career.
All right, let's finish off the podcast. Dingers alert. Who's going deep and contributing and helping the Detroit Tigers?
Well, you know what? You really love this guy, And actually, I'm not going to pick him, though. I love this guy, so I'm going to pick the guy that I really love. That's Niko Goodrum, okay? He's been hot, was hot over the weekend, at least in his native Atlanta, Georgia, against the Braves. So, hey, maybe his bat is heated up officially now. So, really, an easy selection for me is Niko Goodrum, a guy that I like when I met him at our sponsor, DC Sports.
I'm going to go with Nick Castellanos. I think he gets 2 home runs this week, and I think he's going to like the homestand. He's going to potentially go the opposite way. 2 home runs for Nick Castellanos. Give me a bonus point if he does actually fall on 2.
Nico hits 3 then. So I'm better than you, and Nico's better than Nick C right now.
At this point in time, me and Vito are tied at 0 because of the fact that...
Don't we each get a win? No, it's just 1-1. We each get a win. Come on. Give me a win. You get a win. Participation for you and I. Kind of, right?
All right, 1-1. Stay tuned for news regarding the Tigers Talk podcast. We are in efforts to expand our coverage of the Detroit Tigers, and let's keep our fingers crossed that as this month progresses, things fall in our lap. As we've said, me and Vito have worked hard to cover the Tigers, giving you guys coverage. You can follow the network at Detroit Podcast. You can follow Vito on Twitter at Vito Jerome. We're going to continue to work hard to advance the cause here, and hopefully by the end of the month, you'll see some changes. If Vito does good work, and I think he is, we will have an above-average chance, 75% or more, of having something that we really want to have happen. Keep our fingers crossed, Vito. You better do good work.
Well, It's all on me.
It's all on you.
He always puts it all on me. You like how he does this?
Yeah. You got paid
as my
last
boss,
week.
he likes doing that to me. Is that fair, guys? Tell me. Please, DSP Nation, tell me. Tweet at me at Vito Jerome and tell me.
Very fair.
Is Doc being fair?
Very fair.
Okay.
You have responsibilities. You are taking money out the same day. I joked with Adam. I said, Vito got his check and cash it the same day.
Had to do it, baby. Hey, I'm desperate. I'm living in destitute.
Right.
Come on. I'm no big leaguer like Miguel Cabrera making money without even playing well. And being hurt right now and still collecting those fat paychecks. So, got to make money somehow, some way. And it is through you and the DSP network right now and a couple of other entities, as you know.
No doubt about it. So get to work. I think it's going to happen. I got a good vibe. So far, so good in terms of our coverage. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We still love the Tigers. We still love covering baseball, and we still love recording this podcast each and every week. I look forward to talking with Vito next Wednesday, hopefully with a couple series victories versus the Rays and Minnesota.
I just laughed. Tough week ahead for the Tigers. Even at home against the Rays for 3 and the Twins for 3. You know the Twins, I got to reflect on them really quick again. They're 40-18.
Okay.
You really think the Tigers with 22 wins? Yeah, it should be a sweep for the Twins, even on the road, Doc.
Laugh along with us. Follow along with our pain as we cover the Detroit Tigers, man. We're doing it, Vito, and I think it's going to make us really good reporters and really give us good insight for the work that we're doing. For Vito Chirco, I am the Doc. You've just downloaded the latest edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. See everybody next week.
Adios.